Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever struggled with anxiety, illness, or dis-ease, then do we have the Clarity Cleanse show for you. Today I'll be talking with Dr. Habib Sadeghi, co-founder of the Be Hive of Healing Integrative Medical Center in LA, the author of Within, A Spiritual Awakening to Love and Weight Loss, the publisher of MegaZEN, and the author of a brilliant new book on healing, The Clarity Cleanse. And that's just what I want to talk with him about today, about 12 steps to finding renewed energy, spiritual fulfillment, and emotional healing. That plus we'll talk about Coldplay and the Super Bowl, Guadalajara and German new medicine, Gary the Angel, psycho-spiritual hygiene, our own personal septic system, a restaurant called Opaque, and what in the world golden Krugerrands and tarnished pesos have to do with anything. Gotcha. So welcome to the show, Habib. Are you ready to shine?
Well, I think you've made me laugh, so I think I am already shining. And thank you for that introduction.
Woohoo! Then my job is done. So, however, maybe we should go into the things just a little bit. If you don't mind, before we dive into the book, can I ask you what was your wake-up call at 2 a.m. in the morning while in your second year of med school?
I clearly remember it as if it was yesterday. I had taken my second exam of a system.
Yeah.
In medical school, everything is in system, and it was the renal system. And came home, I was exhausted, and I heard a voice in my left ear that said, "Check yourself." And that was it. I went to the restroom. I checked my testicles, and my left testicle, I felt a mass, and it was a mass that really changed my entire life. And it, in a way, it started with the chaos and a dis-ease and hurt, but up until now, it has led into this beautiful way of being, where not only it saved my life, but it has allowed me to really start a conversation and perhaps bring hope and healing to so many around the world.
Thank you. So at the time, what did doctors find? What did they recommend?
So it was staged as testicular cancer, and this was back in early February 1997. Mm-hmm. And just to contextualize it, Scott Hamilton nearly died of the same testicular cancer. Lance Armstrong, the testicular cancer, it spread everywhere. They removed part of his brain, part of his lungs. So that was really the context, the background that I was given this diagnosis. I was given only 30% chance of survival. And what was recommended was a procedure where they simply cut you open from your pubic bone all the way up into the xiphi sternum. The technical term, it's retroperitoneal lymphadenectomy. It's a 16-hour surgery. They take everything out, including the lymph nodes, and then radiation and chemotherapy, minimum of 4 cycles of cisplatin chemotherapy. By the way, everything that I'm sharing with you, all the documents from City of Hope, which is a renowned medical facility for oncological services and treatments, just in Doherty, California, it's published in the book, The Clarity Cleanse. And I'm not recommending this for everybody. Again, after all, I'm a medical doctor, and I would never throw away the baby with bathwater. But for me, at the time, that what was being recommended, it just seemed really excessive. And I chose to walk away from the bulk of what was being recommended. And, I was told I would never father children. We have 2 beautiful children, 10-year-old son, Hafez, and 4-year-old daughter, Hannah. So really, the message in the book is the message of hope, the message of connecting deeper with our own intuitive sense, with our own authentic self.
Now thank you so much for sharing. You had at the time, when you went to Well, you ate healing Mexican tacos, and I say that because I was talking about the synchronicities this morning with my wife, potentially going to an Iranian doctor, and she had just emailed me. I had just read the sentence about healing tacos, and she emailed me and said, I was going to make myself a killer burrito this morning, but the word killer didn't seem right, so I'm making myself a healing burrito. And I'm going, what? You've got to be kidding me. So tell us about the healing tacos and Gary the Angel.
Yeah, Gary, my anatomy partner. So I left Loma Linda University. That's where I went for my initial diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was given the diagnosis, I really walked away and I couldn't eat. I just my entire mouth was just dried up. I couldn't think. All I could think about was I was gonna die. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Oh, I'm gonna die. And, I ended up in medical school. I didn't really know where to go. I ended up in the anatomy lab, and here was my partner, Gary. And Gary, at the time, I think this was really a blessing, and talk about synchronicity of the beauty of life. Gary, when he started medical school, already had a PhD in clinical psychology.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a lot older than me at the time. And it was unbelievable. He looked at me. I told him what I was given. He said, "Let's go have lunch." And we ended up in this little Mexican restaurant close to medical school in downtown Pomona, in California. And and he started speaking with me, and he shared his life story. And he ended by looking me straight in my eyes and saying, Habib, I don't know the God that you believe in, but the God that I believe in is a loving God. And then he quoted, he who hasn't loved hasn't known God yet, for God is love. Listen, it took me a while to really understand what occurred for me. But when we walked away, walking back to medical school, if they had called me to say, here's what's going to happen. We're going to take out both testicles, that I was going to be okay. I didn't understand it, but somehow my libido came back. My mouth got watery. The saliva was flowing. I got my appetite back. I got reengaged with life. And yes, and I ordered the fish tacos, and the rest is history. He really shifted things for me. And one of the reasons, Michael, that I'm here, in a way, that's what you really do, whether you know it or not, for so many people. The message and the people that you have on your show, and that's really, it's a privilege for me to be here. I'm very grateful.
I didn't see that one coming, Habib.
I meant it,
and I
mean that. Thank you for doing what you're doing.
I know it. Thank you, and thank you for doing what you're doing. And I truly, truly mean it. On that, you went for partial surgery. This is something I'd heard Deepak talk about years ago, which is he's like, if you got a lump, get the lump out, then do everything else. And that's in a sense what you did. And
right.
So tell us what you did, and then what your journey was over the next year, because this
right.
is so important for people too.
No problem. So what I did was what's referred to as unilateral orchiectomy. So I removed the affected testicle, and then I was told that I had 70% chance of metastasis, that there was vascular invasion, that I was going to explode if I didn't do A, B. But I didn't. I walked away. I did things differently. I started traveling. I took a sabbatical from medical school. But, the most important thing that I did, the geographical pilgrimage or the movement was important, but not as important as what occurred here. There was a deep sense of curiosity that was awakened within me. I started questioning. I started reflecting. Well, why the left side? And I started realizing what was occurring. And I started paying attention and reading a lot of the systemic approaches to medicine, such as Ayurvedic medicine, such as Tibetan medicine. So, German New Medicine. And I realized that there is a laterality to the body, that we have that there's a certain number of receptors that they're a lot more concentrated on the left side and versus the right side. And that's where this idea comes from, that the left side is the feminine, the heart, the receptivity, and the right side is our masculine. I mean, it's not so because Louise Hay said it, or there is a biological reason for it, and we understood this over 5,000 years ago. So that was the thought process that I started reflecting. I started paying attention. I started realizing the ton of judgments that I was holding against myself, against my sexuality. It took me to, it was almost like an archaeological process where I went back to the land of my biography, where I had come from. And, I looked upstream in my consciousness and I realized, years of misunderstanding, misperceptions, misidentifications, and misuse of my energy might have, if it had not caused, it may have contributed to this biological tumor, to this cancer. And that changed everything for me, Michael. That was the beginning of a new way of being, a new realm of possibility that it just allowed me to shift and change things.
Thank you so much for sharing on that. And I want to go into that a little bit more. It just occurred to me that I was thinking about the journey that you're on, and you said the geographical journey isn't as important as the internal journey. And you had written on the inside of your thumb, love. And I realized this was a journey into love.
Yeah, it really was. I'm wearing a T-shirt that basically is the same logo where I used to write it it's called hypothene or eminence, the inside of my thumb.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just to link me back. And that is really important. And I actually, to this day, I recommend it for patients that they come to me. And most patients that they find me, they don't come in because they have the flu. They come in because they consider Be Hive of Healing the end of the road clinic. And they want someone that can create something different, new with them, for them, so that they can move into that possibility. For me, my guide initially was Gary, and I would write down love in the inside of my left hand, my thumb. But, going back to medical school, as you can imagine, every time you're seeing a patient, you wash your hands. It kept, I had to rewrite it again. So eventually, it became a sticker. And then eventually I went to a place and I got like 50 love buttons. And then by now I had my own practice. And one day, one of the patients started wearing it. And he actually is responsible for distributing over 6 million love buttons all over the planet. And as you mentioned, Chris Martin of Coldplay, they actually had on Super Bowl 50, halftime, every human being, 75,000 people, held a placard and collectively spelled "Believe in Love," and that was this logo. And we were there, and I was tearful. My wife, we were both tearful of really understanding. And for us, it was symbolism of the collective consciousness that individually we don't really know why we're holding this placard, just like we don't really know why this is happening to us at the time. But, hindsight being 2020, we realize that sometimes the trauma, or what I refer to as seizure or the brokenness, it's part of a larger symphony, harmony, that eventually downstream we'll get to see it. And that was the moment for us. And it was right around the anniversary. It was, February 5th, 2015. And all of a sudden, I realized that my brokenness and what had occurred was to bring me to this point, and perhaps to create a whisper, a linguistic abstraction that says, let's do believe in love, that, loving does play a role in healing.
This brings it already completely full circle, which is to say, in essence, you're saying this all happened to bring me where I am today and to be able to help others in the way that you're helping, which goes right back to Gary with the Mexican fish tacos saying, do you believe in a loving God?
Right. Absolutely. That was it. And that's, and for me, that's everything. And I think one of the most important part of the book, and it came from my 10-year-old son, Hafez, it was just the cover, which is just the cup. Because, today is the International Women's Day. And that's the cup, the actual picture that I Instagrammed, and saying, and really honoring the sacred feminine
Hmm.
as the cup, as the uterus, as the womb that they hold in that new consciousness, in that new birth, that we're all, waiting for. I mean, it's an incredible and a privileged place to really see the connection, as so you eloquently tied it together for me to realize that it's full circle. It's really where I started, where I ended up, as you profoundly highlighted it.
Thank you. Out of curiosity, how did you meet your wife?
Um, so she was in New York at Columbia Dental School, and I was doing my preliminary internal medicine, initially clerkship in emergency medicine, and then internal medicine residency at Long Island College Hospital, and that was it. I mean, I remember exactly the first day that I met her. It was in front of Presbyterian Hospital in Columbia, and her light was just so much that I couldn't really hold, eye contact with her. And she is the light and the source behind me, and really
Woohoo!
her love has sustained me.
Awesome. Awesome. If we go back, and we don't have to share the exact specifics, you had a very challenging childhood before you moved to the US. You can share if you want, you don't have to. You then got to the US and you had, I was bullied in school, but I didn't go through, I believe, anything like what happened to you as you're working your damnedest to fit in.
You know, so amazing. My wife and I, we just got back from Florida.
Mhm.
We were invited by the Coral Spring congressperson as well as their mayor, and they for us to hold a sacred space for some of the parents of the students who lost their lives, and some of the wounded students and the first responders, and to really hold that space with them. And everyone were crying, and we felt very grateful because one of our ambassador, Chris Martin, was also there, and just the humility of this human being. And it took me back to when my experience of going through high school. And, when I came here, I really couldn't speak English. And I'll never forget, and you're there and you're called names. And, I was called Hirschpacker, and I had no idea what it was. And there was no internet, right? And I would go to, Merriam-Webster dictionary, and I couldn't find it. And I would go to Coach Kaiser. I would say, Coach, what is this? And and he would say, well, where'd you hear that? I said, well, that's what they're calling me. And he would smile and would say, don't worry about it. It's a Christmas candy. And I just really, it was years later that I realized what was occurring, and it was just a misunderstanding, and it was a misunderstanding that started. I was lifting, and the captain of the football team at the time, let's call him Bobby Brown, and it just, I showed up and I wanted to get a pair of gloves from him because that's what he sold. And because I wanted to connect with people, with students, that connection, that's what really makes us human beings, and we forget that. So I had cut out all these pictures of football players because that's who was in all the weight training classes. So when Bobby asked me for the for $10 or $20 to give him so he could give me the glove, I opened my wallet, and here comes a waterfall of all these pictures of men, of these boys. And this guy just took a step back and he said, it was as if he stamped me with a kosher stamp or something. All of a sudden, this guy said, "You faggot." And all of a sudden, the entire school thought I was homosexual. And, had all these, women that they would come up to me and with suggestive postures. And when I wanted to do the right thing and I would, move away, they would point fingers. Look, I can't tell you how traumatic it was. I can't, to this day, even just considering it, I get tearful. Because because I have compassion, for that little boy that couldn't speak the language. Mom and dad weren't here, and he just wanted to connect. He just wanted to have a communication because that's really who we are. Two human beings, and perhaps we're the only mammal that can do that we create phonation and linguistic abstraction, and we can create meaning. And that meaning can create thoughts, feelings, and emotional, and it really resets our emotional states or our personalities. That's what I was looking for. And I was misunderstood. I was ostracized. I was excluded. And, and to this day, that is actually occurring. That was the experience. That's what happened, that over a period of time, the downstream effect was getting testicular cancer.
And you heard that message as well.
Yeah. The beauty of being a physician and the beauty of having a master's in spiritual psychology with emphasis in consciousness, health, and healing is that, I'm able to look at physiological parameters, look at the blood work, right? I was a medtech microbiologist before even going to medical school. And then with having that depth of psychological well-being and the spiritual realm, then I can give it, really a deeper meaning. And really, that's what this book is about, Michael. This book, as far as I know, and I read, as you can see, I'm in my library quite a bit, maybe at least a book or two every week. This is the first time that someone has superimposed physiology, psychology, and spirituality and provided a very clear practical steps. And these are the steps as simple as a way of journaling or as a way of walking. And these are the very thing that saved my life, and that's really why I'm here. If I had not done that, there's no question in my mind that I would have died.
I was about to woohoo until you got to the last line there. But it is a woohoo that you're still here. So one last thing I want to cover, and then we're going to dive into some of the tools, many of the tools. We'll see how many we can get into in the time that we have here. But sure. I've had two or three, depending on how we count it, cosmic whacks with the 2x4. And two NDEs. And after the first, I thought I was getting everything in order. And then something happened, and I ended up becoming like Sisyphus and trying to roll a stone uphill. I don't know how I got that partial amnesia, but I did. And in a sense, you had something of the same sort before a car accident where all of a sudden you went from your beingness back into the doingness of the world.
Absolutely. I remember exactly the car accident. I remember the mindset. I remember, look, listen, medical school, most people don't realize it, but it's a very expensive process. It's a very expensive process. So, being, my wife is a pediatric dentist. I'm a medical doctor, a ton of loans, and you get out with so much loans, and you really want to pay off your loans, and you want to create a life for yourself. So part of that process, I was the co-medical director of one of the largest occupational medical centers here in California. And look, I was seeing 60 patients a day. I mean, it's just, and so my thought process, it was just all about doing, and I was looking at one of the podcasts that you had with David Allen, the art of, I can't remember, but the art
getting
of
things done.
Getting things done. I tell you, I could have gotten a PhD. I mean, I was getting things done, but what I was failing at, Michael, was being. See, I became a human doing and not a human being. And that car accident, chaotic as it was, and I talk about this concept, I go into it in Declare to Cleanse, and I talk about metabolism. I talk about metabolism in Greek. It simply means ceaseless change, endless change. And metabolism always starts with catabolism, a breakdown,
Yes.
a catastrophe, you see. And then there is anabolism or buildup. So, this time it was a car accident, and that it allowed me to free myself up and to reflect back and to realize the speed that I was operating and the scarcity of beingness. And at that point, I did Vipassana. That was my first Vipassana meditation, 10 days silence Vipassana meditation, at which that by itself, it took me even deeper in my spiritual practice and my meditations and so forth. So that was the car accident that I talked about in Declare to Cleanse.
Thank you. And that brings us to the word that's important that you started to get, perhaps through Vipassana, through your practice, which you'd been doing for a long time, but it was bringing you back full circle, clarity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, seeing things as they are in Sanskrit, which is really the art. And it's an art that no one teaches us. We more and more. I mean, I work with quite a few powerful people that they're up, in creating profound conversations in the world. And one common feedback that I hear is, "Gosh, no one taught me that. No one told me that." And you've had your set of experiences, your set of seizure or cuts or catastrophes. All of us. I really am of the opinion that sometimes, not always, sometimes, we get sick because it's really the chaos, the catabolism that we need for an upliftment. And it takes me back to this Sufi adage that about the donkey who fell inside the well, and all the farmers they're lining up and they're trying to get the donkey out and they can't. And then so they say, "Gosh, so then let's just fill up the well," and so that no other donkey would fall down into the well. And as they're doing that, initially they're hearing the braying of the donkey, but after a while they don't. And a few hours later, they hear something and they look down and they realize every time that someone is shoveling dirt down the well, the donkey, as it hits it, it just allows it to just wash off, fly off its back, and it steps over it. And that's really a profound message, especially now, given our current zeitgeist and what we're working with, and and the chaos that is around, perhaps even globally, for us to keep our centeredness and to see through the fog and to realize who we really are and why are we here.
Woohoo! It also occurs to me as you were sharing the story and as you were saying chaos also unmoors us and can set us free. The chaos can liberate us from our old paradigm that we're stuck in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, and you can see that. You can really see it throughout our physiology. It's just so fascinating to have the privilege of seeing both end of the same coin, to be able to sit and hear a person's biography and then to flip the coin and to look at the blood work and to see their biology.
So let's dive more into that. And going into clarity, you have a fascinating quote that I want to share here. Ironically, it's this containment, this act of holding that allows us to move through our thoughts and emotions.
That's what Gary did for me. He held this space. The cup is everything. One of the things that I start the book with, I say, look, if you show up and let's say in the center, and I want to make you a cup of tea, what is it that I need to make a cup of tea? Most patients, they say, well, you need hot water and you need a tea bag. But they forget the most important thing, which is the cup, which is the womb, which is the containment. And, I think in this modern world, we're so oriented towards getting things done and being effective, and data, and Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and email got so much data and information, but yet it's in that holding that the miracle, the magic occurs, the alchemy of processing it, linking it together. And nowhere did I experience this more profounder than what you described, which was the most recent experience, celebrating so we celebrate Valentine's Day. We call it Day of Life, which is February 10th. And that was the day that I had my surgery, my beloved and I. And a few years ago, we went to the restaurant that you mentioned. And I love this restaurant.
Opaque.
I've been there once. Opaque. First of all, I love the name. It's called Opaque. And I have absolutely no relationship with this restaurant at all. No financial ties whatsoever. And we just wanted to do something different. And I found out about it. And then once we get there, it just dawned on me that the address is 2020 Wilshire Boulevard in Santa Monica. And it's operated by visually impaired workers. So when you go into the hall, they ask you to literally turn off your cell phone. You turn it in. You turn off your watch because it's the entire inside the restaurant is pitch dark. Michael, I thought I was centered. I thought I could contain. My God, our waiter Michael came out and he instructed us. Sherry put her hand on his shoulder. I was putting my hand on Sherry's shoulder, and we were ushered inside this pitch dark restaurant. The minute I went in, it was as if my brain was like trying to figure out what's going on. My eyes are open. How come I can't see? And I got so disoriented. And it's unbelievable. You sit down. First of all, you have absolutely no idea what they're going to serve you. You tell them if you have any specific requests or dietary guidelines or sensitivities, and obviously they'll respect it. But as you're eating, all of a sudden, we just forget how much of the information that goes into the brain comes from our eyes. It's close to 85%. So if the brain doesn't have that, and then you accentuate our senses, and it's just brilliant. And just to witness it and to be able to communicate and to work with myself and to create what you just so eloquently said, which is containment.
Beautiful. And it makes me think, I love my wife's cooking. I'm wondering if I'm going to try taking like a blindfold or an eye mask and try eating a meal. Usually I actually say, can you turn the lights up because the food tastes better when I can see it? But now wouldn't that be flipping it on its head?
Yeah, it's something. Research has shown that, the whole act of praying before a meal, it just really buys us time, and it allows the autonomic nervous system. It's autonomic, so it's automatic. So it's not under our control to really kick in. And the salivary gland and many different things, they just accentuate the more that we could activate the palates and the taste buds and so forth, which by far it communicates with our endocrine system in our pancreas and the gallbladder and many other internal organs in terms of what particular digestive enzymes we need. So, I heard somewhere that really, if there isn't a scarcity that we have in the modern world, it's this scarcity of darkness, because we spend so much around lights, and this affects everything. Affects the biological state, the melatonin, the quality of our sleep in terms of stage, what's referred to as rapid eye movement part of the sleep that produces the highest level of growth hormone, which we need for recovery throughout on a daily basis.
I think you just summarized the whole book in a statement you made just a couple sentences ago. And then I want to go through the steps here. We'll go through rather rapidly. But you just, by saying prayer before the meal and affecting the endocrine systems and the autonomic nervous system, you just bridged spirituality and biology completely in one meal.
You're absolutely right. Most people, they're unaware, Michael. And if I could just leave one thing for you and your brilliant viewers, is this: look up the cranial nerves.
Mm-hmm.
There are 12 cranial nerves. You'll be shocked to find out that the first three cranial nerves, they don't go into brainstem. They actually go and directly innervate the brain. And the first cranial nerve
Mm-hmm.
is the olfactory. And then the second and third, it's around the eyes. It's the optic nerve and the actual cranial nerve that's responsible for most of the movement of our eyes. So when we close our eyes, we free up so much more gigabytes to be able to process, activate, including the cranial nerve 10, vagus nerve, which comes all the way down and it covers the heart, the thyroid, the digestive system, as well as the movement of the diaphragm and the breathing.
It's just another reason to get some either silence or at least some light silence into our lives.
Absolutely.
So let's talk, and you mentioned 12 cranial nerves, so it seems appropriate. We're going to talk about 12 steps real quickly, as many as we can cover in this time, and we'll just take them one by one. First off, step one, taking responsibility for our emotional waste and our own septic systems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, the example that I use is the septic system, the actual house where we're at. We're out in Agoura Hills, and we're on a septic tank.
Beautiful.
And as I studied it, I realized, oh my God, that's what's needed. That we need a septic tank internally, and what I refer to as emotional management system.
Mm-hmm.
And I think acceptance and self-responsibility go hand in hand. I usually say that acceptance is the gate of back to heaven. And as you walk in, the other step, really the most profound, is self-responsibility, that we realize that I am responsible for my current thoughts, feelings, and emotional state. And that opens everything up. Some of the other important steps is a specific form of free-form writing or journaling that I refer to as PEW-12, PEW-12, which stands for Purged Emotional Writing for 12 minutes a day. And I really experiment with this. I did it for, and I would have patients do it. And then I would look at their physiological states every 12 weeks. So most of the things that I'm recommending at the end of the book, I mentioned this, that I looked at the level of oxytocin. Mm-hmm. Paul Zak wrote a book called The Moral Molecule, and he referred to it as the oxytocin and the effect of oxytocin with respect to the level of the trust within a society. I looked at it, and I looked at specifically for the level of clarity, physiologically speaking.
You call it the clarity molecule.
The clarity molecule, absolutely. It's oxytocin, which is probably one of the most powerful hormones that's produced in our system. So purged emotional writing, where you basically sit down and you cocoon yourself. You mm-hmm. create a cup. You create, if you would, almost like a confession or revelation booth, as I call it. You sit down and you really take a survey of what's happening internally. What are my thoughts? What are my feelings? What are my emotions? Are there any upsets? What's occurring for me? Like, for instance, you mentioned your sweet beloved is out in Colorado and she had a little bit of a headache. So by just working with that, it just opens up. And most of the time, as I mentioned it in the book, what we reveal, we heal. Most of the time, when we bring awareness and attention, it's almost like we touch it. It's almost like there is a friend that's frustrated. And we, let's say I'm frustrated and and then you just touch me and you say, Habib, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. That linking process creates a third consciousness called alchemy or healing. The other very simple steps that can be done, it's a way of walking. And I experimented with patients where I would ask them for a length of time on a daily basis when they walk, instead of walking, look down. And it's fascinating. If you look around, the way that most people are walking, they look down. And when they look down, part of the brain that gets activated, it's the part of the brain that creates a lot of internal dialogue. Mm-hmm. I should have done this. I can't believe it. And we get caught in this dynamic of what I refer to as a vicious cycle. And this vicious cycle starts by thoughts. Right now, you might be listening to me, but you also are having other thoughts. And these thoughts are creating various different molecules these molecules, usually let's refer to them as neurotransmitters, such as melatonin, histamine, epinephrine, norepinephrine, glutamine, glutamate, serotonin. And what they do is they create feelings. And then these feelings upregulate and shift and change our hormones, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, pregnenolone, growth hormone. And then what they create is a particular emotional set point for a personality, which leads into the thought processes. So that's really what we have. And most people, they get caught in that. They caught in what I refer to as a holding pattern. So a good way to pull out of it are these specific steps that allows us to pull out and to be more reflective in our day-to-day life.
Woohoo! So I want to go back real briefly to Pew 12. I teach people a version of it myself where we have them get out all of their emotion. And I say, this is the opposite of positive psychology. I want you to purge. I want you to throw it up, to barf it out on the page. But sometimes we forget to do it for ourselves when we're teaching others. So I want to take a moment to thank you. So because I have had twice my wife has gone away this year, and twice I've had the responsibility of the home and the show, and it's a daily show, all to my lonesome while she's gone. And both times my shoulders, back, and neck has gotten sore. Now I teach automatic writing, and clearly in automatic writing, it's like, no duh, it's burden. It's very clear you're carrying a burden. And so I've been working to shift that burden. And it wasn't till reading your book. Well, I got it in automatic writing, but I hadn't taken action of it. It wasn't till I was reading your book this morning. And I was like, wait a second. He's right. Habib is right. I need to write this out. I need to write all the burdens down on a page. And that's my homework assignment as a coach for myself for tonight. And then shred it and burn it and transmute it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's the beauty of it. One of my favorite poems of Rumi that was translated by a dear friend who was very generous and who gave an endorsement for the book is Coleman Barks. Mm-hmm. And Coleman Barks translated Guest House. And Rumi talks about really realizing that we are the cup. We're not the tea. We're not the espresso. We're not the matcha. We're the cup. That one day someone fills us with joy, the shame, the frustration, the anger, the shoulder pain, all of that, it's okay because this is what it means to be a human being. And really the ability to allow all that is present to move through and not to get stuck.
And taking the next step with that, it started first for me January 2nd. So January and February, my fitness levels have had a maybe a 10-year high because I have said, we're going to work on this on a psychological level, on a spiritual level, on a physical level. We're going to go after this with everything we've got. So even though I'm experiencing a little bit of it today as she's out having hopefully the time of her life by Maroon Bells and cranking up that energy so that home comes and chases and finds us, I know that this is actually for my highest good and the highest good of all.
It's exactly right. It's how you hold it. It's how you relate to it. It's not really what happens to us. It's the perception. It's how we really choose to metabolize it. If we metabolize it as she's leaving me, this is the second time I don't get acknowledged, she never acknowledges me, then you hold it because you want to be kind. You're an incredibly thoughtful being. So the aspect of you that feels unseen, you hold that in. And it's sort of like, brushing, you said that you have your cats. It's sort of like brushing the cat poo underneath the carpet.
Oh, God.
Sooner or later, there is a somatic experience, and that could be part of the process. So the sooner that you rip off the carpet and you clean up the cat poo, the sooner that you access, and the more that we do it, then it becomes second nature. And that's really what it means to be a human being. Before enlightenment, you carry water, chop wood. After enlightenment, you carry water, chop wood. Before clarity, you carry water, chop wood. And after clarity, you carry water, chop wood. This is what it means to be a human being, to learn how to metabolize and how to have an internal septic tank and an emotional management system. So whether it be shame, whether it be whatever it is that's coming at us, instead of projecting and finger pointing, we take that on and we say, this is here. How can I work with it? How can I break it down and take the nutritious aspect and defecate the parts of it that doesn't really serve me? And that is what it means to be a mature adult.
Woohoo! An important piece that you had there. It's step 5. It's the importance of asking questions, because we try to repress. We try to keep it under the carpet, saying, why is this stinking so much? And asking the important questions.
Yeah, asking question is everything. Because in order to be able to ask, you need to create the clarity. A consciousness that is pressed doesn't allow himself or herself to ask questions. One of the things that I ask every single patient, when you go to see a medical doctor and they're giving you a news that is challenging, always have someone with you. Why?
Thank you.
So that they can hold this space for you, so that you don't collapse. I had my late brother with me, who was a renowned cardiologist, who was the most brilliant human being. And and he had a very challenging life, and we lost him on July 1st, 2015. So the book, Clarity Cleanse, as you read the dedication, it's dedicated to his memory, Dr. H. Mirdad Sadeghi, who graduated from USC School of Medicine, top of his class at the age of 17.
Wow. If you don't mind me asking, then let's segue from that.
Oh, correction. He graduated from high school at the age of 17. He graduated from USC at the age of 21. I stand corrected.
Going from there, it segues perfectly. Can you tell us about embracing suffering and what is tide breathing then?
Absolutely. So in the book, I've gained 25 pounds since July 1st, 2015. And it's intentional, because I believe that there's certain pain that the only way that you heal it is that you bear it, you hold it. And so I took some time and I went to, for 10 days, I went to Cancun, because there was a straight flight, and that was the last place in Cozumel that my brother and I scuba dived. And I got myself a room. I left the room, the window open, overlooking the ocean, and I would close my eyes, and as I would hear the waves in and out, that's what I would do. I could see myself sitting in front of my sweet brother, and as the feeling of guilt that I should have maybe done more would come in, I would allow it. As the feeling of shame would come in, I would allow it. And I would literally breathe in the loving, and I would breathe out the loving, realizing that the suffering was part of the process. And I wasn't suffering for me, that I was experiencing, I was being a vessel, what Rumi talks about as being a flute with 9 holes. Every human being has 9 holes. That this thing would move through me, and then joy would come in, and I could see my brother smiling, and my heart would smile, and I would see my brother happy, and I would send happiness not only to my brother, but to every corner inside, to every single cell, every fiber of my existence. And I would send this happiness, this kindness, this loving for the highest good of all throughout the planet, fill up, surrounding and protecting every molecule of water, every grain of sand. And then I would melt and I would drop into this place, into this ocean, into the water that was here before the fish showed up, into that which cannot be understood, into that which cannot be fathomed, into that which we refer to as collective consciousness, energy, Holy Spirit, Ruha HaKodesh, God. And I would pray, Father, Mother, God, beloved friend, Lord God of all creation, O divine Holy Spirit, we come before you in the depth of gratitude for the gift of life as it is, wholeheartedly. And we ask for all of us and for our planet, for all of our four-legged friends, to be filled, surrounded, and protected with the white light of living love. And Holy Father, O Divine Mother, O beloved friend, we ask that any karma, any negativity, any hurt, any suffering, any misuse of energy, any misunderstanding, misperception, misidentification that is ready to be released with ease and grace, and to be taken up into the highest realm of light and sound, where they can be transmuted, transformed, and used for our upliftment of remembering, becoming a member of that inner knowing that we are souls having a human experience on this planet. And we send the blessings of this awareness, the joy, the enthusiasm ahead into the remainder of our day and days to come. In the name of that which is sacred, sanctified, yet unfathomable, so it is.
Woohoo!
Thank you, Michael.
It's beautiful.
Thank you for this privilege. Thank you for inviting me. It's such a privilege and pleasure to be here. And thank you for your quality of listening and the space that you held and your consciousness.
Thank you. I'll ask just a few quick wrap-up questions, then we'll let you get going. First off, it just seems so important in compassionate self-forgiveness.
It's everything. It's everything. And so many of us, we hold judgment against ourselves. I mentioned about my brother. I was holding judgments that I should have done more. That I become and I facilitate so many people's growth and so forth. How come I have to, I go into compassionate self-forgiveness. I wholeheartedly forgive myself for ever buying into the misunderstanding that I didn't show up for my brother. And a deeper truth that I'm connected to is that given the givens, I did the best that I could to support my brother. And my brother has had his own soul curriculum and journey. It's very gentle. And I walk people. I've had incredible people with amazing biographies that I talk about in the book, and I give specific example of compassionate self-forgiveness that they constructed that was of service for them. But it's a crucial point of really healing at this level. So if you're dealing with a chronic disease and you're doing everything you can and you're looking for something different, this is that set of tools that can really shift and change things for you.
Woohoo! Bringing it full circle from the beginning all the way around to here, what does a 1932 peso and a South African Krugerrand have to do with anything?
I wish I should have made a mental note and brought it with me so I could have shown you. So the Krugerrand was what Gary gifted me to remember the inner gold, which is the divinity, the God, the namaste. And the un peso, once I backpack and I met with a curandero, at the end of my training, he gave me un peso, which was an internal joke because I have one testicle. And what he was trying to tell me is that you're a man regardless of how many testicles you have. And these are the two coins that I carry with me that link me back to my essence and why I'm on this journey and the conversation that I would like to create for so many.
Thank you. How do we help? This is a question Jessica, she always wants me to ask as the producer. How do we help our kids and link them back as well?
Well, my beloved and I, we started a nonprofit organization. It's called Love Button Global Movement. Your listeners and your viewers can go to lovebutton.org, and there's specific steps in terms of what we can do for our kids, our children. We publish a magazine once a year. It's called MegaZEN.
Yeah.
The 2017 edition. It's all about children, and they can purchase it on beingclarity.com. Beingclarity.com is where they can reach that, and there's specific articles and various different things. We write an article, The Light, on the first of every month, and they can access it at behiveofhealing.com, Hive, HIVEOF, healing.com, behiveofhealing.com. Hive, gathering of beings for the purpose of healing, and that's where the name came from, the ontology of the name.
Fantastic. And that's where we can go to find your beautiful book, The Clarity Cleanse, as well?
Absolutely. The Clarity Cleanse can be found on Being, BEING, clarity.com.
Fantastic, fantastic. If I was to take off my coaching hat as we wrap things up here and put it on you, Habib, what advice would you give people today to start journeying inwards and healing from the inside?
Consciousness precedes phenotypic expression. Consciousness, what I refer to as the imaginal realm, consciousness comes before any manifestation. Keep the septic tank, create an emotional management system, make sure that you have this spaciousness, make sure the cup is clear, clean, and the aromatic tea that is for the highest good of not only ourselves, but the highest good of all will appear.
Woohoo! What personally brings you the greatest happiness, or what I call the woohoo factor?
Many things, beings of service, but especially hanging out with my children and my family.
Very, very cool. And any last words of wisdom you want to share? This is beautiful. I'm going to recommend everybody to get the book. It is phenomenal. We get a lot of guest pitches. And so I've had many guest pitches from doctors who are starting to cross over in this way, but who haven't found a way to bring a cohesive message together and then package it in a way that's easily digestible. So you have done that, and that's huge.
Thank you. Thank you. That was really a way for me to give back, honoring the memory of my sweet brother, Michael. And I'm privileged. I really bow down and I touch your feet. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for your quality of platform, and thank you for your interest. I'm very grateful. God bless you.
It so goes both ways, Habib. I don't have strong enough words. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, get the Clarity Cleanse, and begin cleaning up your soul today, and shine bright. Woohoo!
Thank you, Michael. Bye, everybody. Woo!
I love it, Habib.
Thank you, my brother. I'm very grateful. Thank you for this opportunity. And if there's anything I could be of service, you have my number. I'm here to be of service to you.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like below. Also, leave your comments. Have some real fun with it. Subscribe to our channel where you're going to get more great videos, more interviews coming up. And check out our website, inspirenationshow.com. That's where you'll find tips, blogs, information, videos you won't find anywhere else, and useful and helpful resources to really help you kickstart your life and to shine bright. Thanks so much again. Thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe. See the website. Thanks so much and have fun. Of course, shine bright. Woohoo!